All right, Professor Krusty, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Oh wait, I just realized something.
God fucking damn it.
Sorry, class is canceled.
No. I just want to clarify. You don't want the desktop audio, right? The Discord audio on my.
Oh no, I do not want the Discord audio on your end.
Okay. All right, I've turned it off. It's fine.
Cool.
Cool. So I just want to, before I start, thank everybody for letting me come on the show.
Oh yeah.
It's good to see that the Make-A-Wish Foundation's reading my emails, and I finally got my dream to come true. So yeah, I think I should just start off by introducing myself for anybody who doesn't know. I'm Krusty. I'm an editor. Oh wait, I'm on the wrong slide. So I'm an editor. I am also an oil tycoon. I'm also a member of the Kingsmen, as every British citizen is required to. If Max was here, he would confirm it, but he's not. This is so you can get your shotgun shell and your umbrella. And I've also done some shady deals in Laos, but we can skip over that. But one thing that I am specifically where I spend most of my time outside of editing is I am somewhat of a armchair historian. And this is something that I've loved since I was a little kid and have continued it for a long time. And before, all you nerds ask me, what specific time period are you most expertise with? And I would say anything that is not ancient history, because the majority of that is bullshit. Essentially, anything I'd say after Pax Romana is probably where my expertise lies. Only because one, nobody knew what the fuck was going on back then. Essentially, this is a world map. I couldn't tell you where anything is, but Asia and Africa are somewhere in there. But
wait a minute. This is a world map?
Yeah.
I didn't register for a second.
So, if I remember correctly, it's Asia's in the top right corner, and then Europe is in the bottom left, and then Africa is somewhere.
That looks right to me.
You're gonna hate my topic, Krusty, because it's literally all I'm talking about is basically prehistoric humans.
No. This is not my topic. I just needed to get I have a context for context per context, but we're gonna get there because my story.
Oh yeah, no. I just thought it was hilarious, the juxtaposition of hearing you say that in the context of knowing what my presentation is. Oh yikes! This might.
Yeah, no, don't worry. I'm not going to go too far into this little rabbit hole here. But another reason why as well is the majority of things that happened in the past probably didn't happen from the sources that we've gotten. Essentially because the sources back then was, oh yes, my cousin's wife's brother-in-law had a dream about this event once, and let me tell you about it. So that was, and yeah, a lot of cool things that we thought happened probably didn't happen. I'll give one exception though to 300 because I actually consider it a historically accurate film in the sense that it is exactly how a Spartan general would tell people what happened at the battle.
Oh yeah. me and my 300 perfect Adonisly sculpted men stopped a billion Persians from walking through a tight corridor.
The only inaccuracy was that there wasn't enough butt sex.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They left that part out. That's the part they don't tell you.
You watched the wrong version of the film. That's not the film I watched.
Release the Snyder cut.
If you don't know, Pax Romana was just around 2,000 years ago. So, I've got a lot to work with here. Considering, the average local pub is doubled in length of time, been around than the USA. So it's
British propaganda.
Yeah. So, for my story specifically, I have to give quite a lot of context. This is very important. So, just to make things a little bit simple, this is a map of Europe. It's simple enough, unless you're Jake, because he doesn't know anything about geography.
He's not even here.
Yeah, he'll watch this. He'll watch this. Claims that Iberia isn't a real place, but okay.
That is true. He did say that.
Oh, speaking of fake
Yeah, he
places,
did.
I can't help but notice that yellow country under Russia. I think that should just be labeled more Russia right now.
yeah, and the green one above it also Russia.
Right, also Russia. It's Russia
Just a
too.
Just a
And then
big black
also-
square.
I
on the
do
screen.
like how Crimea is orange, like it's a separate country.
And then like the Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia is work in progress. So yeah, but it didn't always used to look like that, and it used to be a lot more complicated, like really, really complicated.
God.
This is a general map of Europe in the 1300s, which is where our story takes place. And if you think it like got better or anything like that, it didn't. This is 100 years later.
Oh my God, are those all countries? Jesus! This fucking Sid Meier's
Do you know-
city-states in there.
Do you know what happens when you have like a glass window and you smash with a sledgehammer? That's Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to
if you-
Lithuania. They really got robbed.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say compare it to, but yeah, no. So you look at the map and you go like, how could anything be like ordered, or like how is there like negotiations, or how is there relationships? Because back then, trade and like just diplomacy in general wasn't like a big deal or a big thing. Like not as important as it is today. So there were two ways you can make alliances back in the day, and I know like really fancy people or fancy historians are going to say no, there's more complicated ways. I'm simplifying it for the average person. Okay, there's two ways, and one of them we still use today. It's the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So like we still use this today, and we've used it a lot of times, and it's probably caused more wars than anything. But that's been around for thousands of years.
I can confirm that quote was used in Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah. So yeah, but then the second way back in the day that you would form alliances is what I like to call a little thing I like to call genetic recycling.
I don't like what that sounds like.
Otherwise known as inbreeding.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that inbreeding bit in a second, but yeah, royal marriages were the other way of making alliances, and to give like some context to this, there's two other reasons to why royal marriages are important. Is two there. One is so that, like, back in the day, your dynasty was essentially more important than your country, because, okay, your country could, like, lose a lot of territory or be destroyed, but as long as your dynasty is still alive, it's all good. So, you know, this is an example of Japan. The Tamayoto dynasty is, I couldn't tell you how long it is, but it's probably one of the oldest in history.
Wait, those two guys are related?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I think if I can remember correctly, it's at least just around 2,000 years or 3,000 years,
Jesus.
like of, you know, yeah. So there's that one reason. And then the other reason is in the hopes that your 4-year-old inbred vegetable of a descendant inhabits the largest empire on the planet.
Fucking shit.
And it works. It works like a charm. Funny enough, the Habsburg family is still a thing to this day in Austria. But they don't rule anything. They just are like a rich family. And also to mention, they're mostly all like 12 years old when they got married.
Beautiful.
So, yeah. Yeah, the 14th century was very complicated, and I've told you this because this is the time period of where my character that I wanted to talk about today was born in, and our character. Oh fuck! I skipped the.
How dare you?
I double clicked. No, actually, no, I didn't double click. The slides are not working.
Surprise, Scotland.
Yeah. Suddenly Scotland.
Scotland jump scare.
There you go. Oh, yeah. Scotland. Our story takes place in Scotland. I actually had a bit for this, but it's been kind of ruined now. So that's fine, as long as we know it's in Scotland.
Hey, Krusty, where's this at?
I don't think I quite understand.
If you're wondering what that is in the corner, that is a fried Mars bar.
Damn.
That's a Chad, is what that is.
So yeah, this is our character of today. Her name is Agnes Randolph, Countess of Dunbar, also known as Black Angus. If you're wondering where Dunbar is, it's about here. But before we can even get to who she is, there's a little bit of context about Scotland, all right, and it's still very prevalent today. So this is a modern map of Scotland, and this is a 1300s map of Scotland, right? Well, England and Scotland. Corporate needs you to find the difference between these pictures. They're essentially very similar, in a general sense, right? So not a lot has changed since those days. But our story kind of starts off with a guy called Robert the Bruce. He is essentially like Scotland's George Washington, and he fought the war.
William Wallace.
Not him, but we'll get to him in a second.
I love his other title's a first name.
Yeah, the Bruce.
Bruce the Robert.
So where our story begins, Robert the Bruce has died.
Great. Didn't like him.
But good news, it's not the end of the world, because the great thing about monarchies is that you have an heir. So his heir was David II. Now, there is a bit of a problem. David is 4 years old. Fun fact, though, this is Prince George. Prince George is a direct descendant of David II.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool.
Very neat.
Yeah. So, obviously, you can't have a 4-year-old ruling a country. And even in medieval times, they knew this.
They figured it out.
They figured it out. So they actually had a job for somebody. There was a job. It was called a regent. The guy's job was, I'm going to rule the country while the kid grows up, and by the time he's 16, he'll be old enough to rule the kingdom.
Yo, like that guy in Dishonored.
There's no way that ever went badly, right?
Oh yeah, we'll get there. Well, actually, to cut a long story short, while a regent would be fine, the regent's dead.
Fuck.
Right.
So the 4-year-old king, no one's telling him what to do. He doesn't have anyone looking. So he's ruling the country.
Wait, so he was kid? We don't have an adult to supervise you. All right, run the country, kid.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, Joffrey.
So the first, what is a 4-year-old king What's the first thing he decides to do?
That's a good question.
The first thing he decides to do is get married, because that's what every 4-year-old wants to do.
Nice, yeah.
He gets married to Joan of Tower, who is called Joan of Tower because she was born in the Tower of London. But she was also 3 years old.
Look,
unrelated.
The 14th century was a weird time, okay?
This lady who happened to be born, this 3-year-old girl who happened to be born in the Tower of London is now married to the king.
Who is 4?
Who was a single year older.
At least there's not a creep.
Was it a private reception or a public one?
Oh, it was definitely public. The royal weddings were always massive events.
At least the age gap wasn't too big.
Yeah. This was considerably normal.
There is that.
Funny enough, though, she is in fact actually the sister of Edward III, who is currently at this point in time the King of England.
How old is he?
He's much older.
Okay,
don't worry. There's
yeah, he's 9.
This
actually.
6-year-old who is currently running England.
But the good thing is that they probably never really talked to each other. Families back then weren't that close. I'm going to sell off my sister to some random kingdom, 500 miles away, was a normal thing. This introduces our next character, who's going to be our somewhat kind of not main villain, but the villain that kind of is a bit incompetent. And this is Edward Balaoive. It's a really annoying.
Yo,
name.
what?
Balls.
Ball. Yeah, let's call him
Edward Balls.
Balls.
Yeah, Edward Balls. So essentially, Edward Balls was not happy that there's a 4-year-old on the throne, as you would be.
Say it ain't so.
Yeah, and also he actually has a claim to the Scottish throne, because his dad was once the King of Scotland.
John Balls.
John Balls.
King Balls.
You might be asking, but wait, didn't you say Robert the Bruce was king? Well, Robert the Bruce was king because he had to depose a previous king, which was this guy. Because, it's a long story short, but essentially, like the nobles were a bit like cautious because essentially, this girl. Her name was. I have all my notes.
I was going to say,
here.
you just flipped physical pages of notes.
This is slide 46. Okay. Yeah. So, this was Queen Margaret, and she was given the crown of Scotland at the age of 4 as well.
What's going on in Scotland, man?
Look, 20 years old was elderly in Scotland.
Yeah, if you didn't die of dysentery at the age of 10, then you lived a long life.
I don't know. We got to maybe give Scotland some slack. If they're having kids run the country, it must be doing really, really well right now.
Well, it's funny you say that, Jack, because she actually died at 12.
God damn it.
Was it of dysentery?
I don't.
Fucking cholera or something.
I think I tried to get the source, but it was an unknown causes, which could probably mean assassination, but so the nobles, which I actually kind of got these slides messed up as well, but the nobles were like, okay, who are we going to get to run the country? And the nobles decided on my boy John
Balls.
But the problem was, is that John was kind of a puppet to Edward I, who is Edward III's grandfather. So this is where it gets all very, very confusing. But yeah, the Scottish people weren't happy. He did a really terrible job running the country, and so the nobles did a full free 180 and just told him he was fired. And this is where Robert the Bruce steps in. He's like, I'm gonna declare war on the English and gonna make Scotland free. And this is where the First War of Scottish Independence begins. Don't worry, we're not getting to the First War of Scotland.
I was gonna say that this is a proper history lesson if we're talking about the multiple Scotland independence wars.
We're mostly talking about a single battle in the second one, but and there's only a few more slides left, but in this part. But
Scottish History 1101.
Yeah, but there's one little funny story about this specific siege, because I was actually at this castle last summer
during the siege.
Damn, dude, it was so funny.
You fucking survived.
Yeah, I was there, man.
The fucking White Walkers were coming, man. It was crazy.
Yeah. So this painting is a little over exaggerated because they actually hadn't started sieging the castle yet before the nobles and the people had essentially surrendered to the English.
Wait, no, painter. We need it to look like there was a battle here.
Yeah. It's First War is really complicated. So this is technically the last battle of the war, but then they when Robert. So when essentially they signed a peace treaty, and then something happened which we don't need to get into, and then they were like, actually no, wait a second, we're going to backtrack on that, and it's still considered the First War of Scottish Independence, even though it's 2 wars. But anyway, it's too complicated. But my point was that all the nobles and Scottish lords had surrendered to the King of England already, and they built this massive trebuchet, the one you see in the corner, and it was called a Warwolf, and it took them 3 months to build it. And before they could even use it, the Scottish nobles surrendered. And came out of the castle, and look at England, who was like, yeah, I accept your surrender, but we did spend 3 months building this thing, so we're going to use it anyway. So they just started pelleting this castle.
Yeah, that's nice that you surrendered, but we did all this work, and it'd be a shame if it went to waste, right? So we're just going to bomb your city anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this is actually the war where you see where you see what the Scottish movies and stuff are based. And even though I would say Braveheart is a very, very inaccurate film, one thing I do find funny though is so William Wallace is was considered a mythical character. And it's still up to this to debate if he's more of a heroic symbol of Scotland more than a real person. But there's actually one really good point of evidence that he existed, and that was how he's executed, because we went into detail as the English on executing him.
Yeah, you would store his head in London, and then you'd send his balls to Ireland.
Yeah, we sent his body all over. No, like in the movie, he's executed, and it's freedom and whatever. No, he was hung up. Up to a point where he was about to die, and then they cut the rope, and then they kind of hung him up again. And then what they used to do is it was a normal thing back then. They would put a knife through your chest, but then they would drag the knife down so your stomach kind of opens up, and all your guts fall out while you're still alive, by the way. And then they will just start kicking you and stuff.
That's not
because
even
the gaping hole in your chest wasn't enough.
Yeah, just to make a point. And yeah, so it was a weird time.
So Scotland came to exist after this War of Independence, right? So
to make it
what we know as Scotland today came to be, at least in part, because of this fucking revolution.
Somewhat, not the Union of the United Kingdom. It became its own country. Yeah.
Yes.
But it
so
was
Scotland's entire nationalist identity is based around getting trolled into existence.
Yeah, essentially. Really, really, really briefly, essentially, when that siege happened, that I was just showing you, the nobles surrendered, and then William Wallace's body parts were sent all across the land, and it was Robert the Bruce was walking down a fishing village, and then all of a sudden he just sees William Wallace's chest hanging from a stork, and then he's okay, we're going to war again. So it was because it was such a brief amount of time, they considered it the same war. But anyway, in that second part of the war, the Scottish won, and Robert the Bruce became King of Scotland. That's just to clarify that backstory. So now we're going to come back to where the Robert the Bruce's son and the other guy's son, John Bowles' son. This is where we're at, essentially. We've got the guy who wants to be the Scottish king, and the other guy who wants to be the Scottish king, but one's backed by England and one's backed by Scotland.
One of them is adult, one of them is a 3-year-old.
Yeah, essentially. And so the war of the Second War of Scottish Independence begins. And it's 6 years later.
Nothing happened. Voice. Nothing of note happened in that time.
Nothing, barely anything happened. What did happen, though, was during that time, let's just say this, our boy, he's doing okay, won a few battles, not won that many, and he's kind of ruining the country. And the worst thing he does is he decides that he's going to essentially sell the southern lands of Scotland to England, which is a big no-no.
A very French thing of him to do.
Well, funny enough you say that, Jack, because French launches Article 5 of their Protecting Scotland treaty and goes to war with England. At the time, England controlled a lot of northern France and inside France. And this is actually where a lot of historians consider the start of the 100 Years' War. That lasted 113 years or so.
Laughs maniacally in French.
So, yeah, now the war. But at this point, this is within the 6 years essentially, but at this point, our boy is not doing good at all. He's losing land, he's driving the economy to the ground, and England is losing its fucking shit at him, and just he's calling him incompetent. So Edward III decides, right, I'm finishing this once and for all. I am wiping this fucking country off the map. Right? So he does a full on scorch earth. I am burning everything I can. I am taking everything.
We gotta nuke Manchuria.
Yeah. So this is where we get to Dunbar Castle, which is what it looks like today. But it didn't used to look like that. It looked like this.
There used to be a castle there. I wonder what happened.
Before and after.
The English army does a full scale invasion on Scotland and forms the largest known army in Western Europe at the time, around 25,000 troops. Which doesn't sound like a lot, but till back then, that's if you saw that army approaching you, you would thought the whole entire planet was like arriving at your gates.
That's rookie numbers, man. I can fit 5 times as many in an SEC stadium.
Yeah. But there's a problem with Dunbar Castle. It's empty because everybody who lived in it is off fighting the English somewhere else. The only person that's in it at this current point is our girl Agnus, with 4 bowmen and a handful of servants. These odds aren't great. Plus, her upcoming opponent is our boy William Montague, who you haven't met yet. And if you're wondering why I've used a Lego picture, there is no other picture of him.
Why are his eyes made of like cabbage in the picture on the left?
That's like braces on his helmet.
Oh, okay.
Because this guy was like a Chad fighter. This is like the Jaime Lannister of like England at this time. He was like the best combat smith, and he rose up the ranks to become the king's like protector, or like king's guard, you could say.
He's also a Lego.
He's also
a Lego. Yes, and so he's out there, boy William, and essentially, when a siege normally happens, it's very bad and ugly and things like that. So there are like some, even like during these times, there were like some like standards of like chivalry. And so if there was a woman left on her own at a castle, the whole idea was that you just let them leave. There's like no point sieging it. So from this point in the presentation, because this part's going to go much quicker, there's not a lot of visualization of this siege. So I've had to use Wojaks to somewhat portray it.
All right.
So this is like my little like story, I guess, for using Wojaks. So forgive me. So some of the see. So this is our boy William. He goes off into
modern
the
art.
Yeah, he goes off to the castle to meet with Agnus, and he's like, "Yo, so listen, it's not really like cool that we just like siege your castle while you're here alone. So we'll let you out and we'll let you go free, and we'll definitely not put you in a cell and use you as a bargaining chip." And she says, "Nah, I'm good. I'm fine in my castle." So he's like pretty damn annoyed about that. As she goes back to the castle, her men in the castle say like, "Yo, we're gonna stay here as well. Don't worry, we're keeping you." So our boy William is like, "Okay, fine, we're going full in. We're giving you one last chance. Please surrender." And she replies, "Of Scotland's king I hold my house. I pay him meat and fee. I'll keep my gold, all the house, while house will keep me." Which essentially translates to, "Go fuck yourself."
Such a way with words.
Yeah. Funny enough, though, the English soldiers are actually kind of like whoa, but also like very happy that was her answer, because that means they get to.
It means we get to siege the castle, boys.
Yeah. They start sieging, and they're using their trebuchets, and they're blasting through the walls and stuff. Well, not blasting through the walls, but the rocks are hitting the walls and stuff, and it's like a terrifying experience. And then all of a sudden, the gates open. And all of a sudden, women start coming out with white handkerchiefs. And our boys are like, "Yes, that was easy. We did it. We've taken the castle." No. Instead, the women just start using their handkerchiefs to clean up the rubble on the side of the castle with the parts that have been destroyed.
Damn.
So,
What?
and like before even the troops can go over to like ask them what they're doing, they're already back in the castle. So the English troops are like really confused and a bit annoyed by this, and they keep doing this again and again, and it starts becoming like a cat and mouse game where they're like, oh, they're coming out. Let's go after them. They're back in the castle. They come out like it gets really really annoying. So our boy is a little frustrated, and he turns to his soldiers and he says, like, let's bring out the secret weapon. And so out of the forest, this very terrifying noise of like large wheels hitting rocks, and nobody knows what it is.
I'm imagining the scene from Holy Grail where it's just like they're rolling the rabbit and all you can hear is the wheels coming through the forest.
Well, so this is the funny thing. There's actually free confirmed things that happened that are completely different from each other, which is really annoying. There's free historical takes on what the siege weapon was. Now, the oldest record is the one I choose to believe, because I personally take the whole my cousin had a dream about this once, and so I'm going to take that one. And also the story makes a lot more sense with this siege weapon. So it comes rolling out, and it's a sew. Now, a sew is essentially a shed that you can roll over that has a roof on it, and then you get to the wall and you essentially go full on Minecraft style your way under the castle,
and they can't drop anything on you.
Right?
He's the Underminer from The Incredibles.
Yeah. Fucking genius.
Build.
Yeah, so you could obviously, I mean, you've already pointed it out, but you could obviously see that it's foolproof, right? Nothing could go wrong with this tactic. No, a rock drops on their special weapon and destroys it. And essentially, our boy William is not happy, and they're all just looking over the castle, just laughing at him. They actually, funny enough, they were trying to shoot him, but because he's like got the best armor that the English like crown could buy, nothing was really going to pierce it. But so he would like walk around and like start shouting at them, and they would shout back.
And they'd be trying to shoot at him, and he's just standing there, arrows bouncing off of him while his secret weapon gets demolished.
I was hoping we could talk, actually.
So this is not going well for him. But he does have one ace up his shoulder. Winter is coming, right? Actually, this is a photo from Scottish Summer, but yeah. So winter's coming. And like they're not going to be able to survive the winter. They're in a siege. They're not getting food supplies. They're going to starve. So but this is like a few months away. So William goes up to the wall. And he tells the guys, he's like, look, you're gonna run out of food, and you're gonna die. So look, take my gold, take some of my food, and I've got some supplies and things, and I'll just let you guys go, and you can like go and live your life. And to be fair, this was like winning the lottery for a lot of people back then. Like, this is like enough gold to buy you a property, enough food to like keep you like, you're not going starving, and you'll be able to like essentially start a new life again. And so the guys discussed it. They huddled about, and they said, yeah, let's do it. This sounds great. So the next morning, the castle gates open, and our boy William charges in with his soldiers, and one soldier runs past him and bumps into him. And as he bumps into him, and to apologize to his lord, essentially, the gates shut. And luckily, William not being in it, but all the rest of his soldiers are now trapped inside this castle, which then get killed.
Right.
And so they essentially told her the entire thing, and she came up with this plan, like, oh yeah, you guys should like totally go along with it until the very end. So yeah, this was another failure for our boy William, and they're all just laughing at him on top of the castle. He is furious. And his soldiers are starving a bit. They're like the morale is low. Like I said, it's the largest army at the time in Western Europe, and it can't defeat a fort with like 12 people in it. But his troops reassure him that winter is still coming. They're still going to starve. So we just have to wait them out.
Doesn't that still apply to like the soldiers outside of the fort, though?
They can get supplies.
Oh, okay.
Like they have trade routes and people coming into.
Yeah, the soldiers like surrounding the castle are preventing supplies from coming into the castle. So that's it's like a blockade.
Got it.
Yeah. So yeah, our boy William's excited for this winter. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And winter comes, and one of the cooler days of the start of the winter, the gates open, and then a messenger comes out on his horse and arrives. Arrives at William's place, and the troops are seeing this horse coming in, and they're like, yes, we've finally done it. We've been here for like 4 months. Please just surrender. And so this messenger comes along, and he's like looking smug, and he's going like, yeah, I'm willing to accept your surrender. She doesn't say anything. She in fact she lays out a blanket on the table, and she puts down a loaf of bread and a bottle of wine, and with a letter accompanying this, saying, with compliments, Angus. So this is winter, obviously. It's like, how are they getting the bread and how are they getting the wine? Well, you may have not noticed, but do you see anything that could potentially...
Oh my god!
Or as I put it... Yeah, there's a like little inner fishing port inside the castle that like the people in this villages like along the coast have just been supplying for this entire time. William is losing his shit. Yeah, but there he does have one last ace up his sleeve, and so this I can't. God damn it. So I don't actually have his name, but essentially he's kidnapped Agnes's brother, and I could not find an image of him anywhere. So I've just put an image here.
Sure.
So he's managed to kidnap Agnes's brother, who was found in another part of Scotland. But he was like, I need him now. He goes up to the wall, and he's like, look, I've got your brother here. I'm gonna kill him if you don't come out of this fucking castle. She replies, well, yeah, if you kill him, I just inherit everything he owns and get all his titles.
What a loving sister.
You won't.
You won't, yeah. At this point, he's he is not talking to his people. Like I say, there his visors are probably dead for mostly boredom, probably at this point. And then, if things couldn't get worse, I'm going to introduce you to a real Scottish chap right now. Introducing my boy, Alexander Ramsay Dollhouse.
Fucking Thor.
This guy he's just, most of his time spent during this war, he's been raiding English, like, camps and things like that. Just doing small parts. But then he hears about this siege, obviously on the internet, because, but this is how I imagine he'd be looking at like some notes or whatever. And he's like, I need a piece of his action. So he gets a bunch of his guys, which I think is around 40 of his men. It's like it ranges like from 40 to 200 depending on the source. They go on like an old fishing boat. They sail into the back of the castle. They meet up with the queen, and they're like, okay, we pledge our services to you. And we're going to help you defend this castle. And she's like, okay, cool. I've got a plan. So, one morning, it's very foggy. And the English aren't expecting anything. And then all of a sudden, they hear the gate open. But because it's so foggy, they can't really see what's happening. And all of a sudden, a bunch of these Scottish soldiers that they didn't know were there just are pouring out and raiding their camp. And they're mostly confused because they've like I said, they've been there all this time, and they've not noticed that there have been like an army of soldiers in the castle this entire time. Their camp is completely destroyed outside, and William has phased out of existence.
30 to 50 feral Scots came out of nowhere.
William's had enough of this, and because funny enough as well, most of the Scots survived that battle and just went back and hid in the castle. So yeah, he decided, you know what, fuck this shit, it's not worth it, I've given up, and went on to do other battles elsewhere. And our girl became victorious. So as a little ending slides, the aftermath.
If they didn't make her fucking Queen of Scotland after that shit,
She deserves it.
Yeah. So essentially, it cost 6 months of time, the entire siege. It roughly cost them money-wise around $10 million in today's money. But you have to also remember back then that would also have been like a big chunk of that economy.
Half of their GDP.
Yeah.
Spent trying to siege this one random fort in Dunbar.
Yeah. They gained no territory.
Yeah, and they lost. So there's that too.
Yeah. And if they actually had taken the castle, they could have ended the war in just few years, because it was actually an important trade route, like castle between France and Scotland was being supplied by France. And when I say it would have ended the war in the next few years, you might go, oh, that doesn't sound that great, or like that great of a loss. The war went on for another 18 years. But yeah, essentially, that ended up in a draw. So
I don't think that
Just
was
like
a draw.
Vietnam.
That really feels
Yeah.
like a decisive Scottish victory.
it was it's one of the most important Scottish victories. She's considered a hero in Scotland.
I want to find Black Agnus. Is it Agnus or Angus?
Agnus.
Agnes. I want to find Black Agnes's statue in Scotland and just like stare in awe.
Yeah. So after this battle, she helped a lot with like helping underground troops and more like guerrilla warfare tactics and things like that. But the war at the end of the day, after the 18 years, essentially ended in a draw.
Mm-hmm.
Like no territory was lost, no territory was traded or anything like that. No, it was essentially a white peace, which was just sad. But the Scottish will always remember Black Agnes.
You do have to respect the fact that they didn't just open fire on a bunch of women and children. I will give them that.
I mean, they did eventually.
They did eventually.
But at least they didn't start out with that,
But
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like back then, there were like in battles, they did have like concepts of like chivalry, in a sense that like for example, when the messenger came out, they could have just like killed the messenger or kidnapped her.
Sure, but
like,
what would that
no,
accomplish, Besides maybe making William feel better?
Yeah. So Agnes wouldn't care for sure. She'd be like, oh yeah, one less mouth to feed.
What a fucking Chad.
Yeah.
All
So
right,
yeah,
that's
this is actually as a little. I was gonna add it to the presentation, but I didn't have enough time. But there's one little like side like note about why I love Scotland and England's relationship. There was a statue. No, it was a rock with engravings. It's about, I think, 1,500 years old or so, and it is a 3,000 word description. Well, not description. It's 3,000 word paragraph inscribed on this rock, and it's just a massive "fuck you." Like, it essentially translates to a "fuck off, England." And it was sat on the border for like 1,500 years. I think there's I don't have it on the presentation, but
That's
I
right.
could send it on the
Yeah,
Discord.
Oh yeah.
Instead of trying to build a wall, Trump should have put just a big ass rock on the southern border.
Fuck you,
and carved,
Mexico.
"Do not enter it."
All right.
Yeah, so
I'm
that's
gonna come.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Professor Krusty, everyone. Round of applause.
Thank you.
Excellent
Yeah,
work,
wonderful.
brother.